Welcome, 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 everyone, to the Women's Empower Network. I am so excited to have Jessica here with us today. So, hi, Jessica.
Hi, how are you doing?
I much better, thank you. I'm so happy to be back.
Awesome.
Yep, I'm not bulletproof either. I think it's the best of us.
No doubt.
So we've been having this fabulous, fabulous conversation before we decided to finally record this thing.
Yeah.
So let's back up a little bit so people can get to know a little bit about your story and journey and who you are. What is the story behind that led you to what you're passionate about today?
I think that there's a lot of things that have always been themes in my life, and women empowerment is one of those things. I'm a singer-songwriter, second generation jazz musician, and when I started writing for women. One of the first songs that I wrote was called Women Here. And then, through the whole process of becoming a mom and needing more stability and going back to school, I started teaching. And then I got really sick with a like a mystery illness that to this day, we don't really know exactly why this happens, but inflammation, and it attacks my heart, and people die from it all the time when they don't know you have it. Once they know you have it, it's treatable, but it's not been cured. And so that took me on this crazy health journey of just trying pretty much everything. If you can name it, I've tried it almost everything. Um, and that indirectly led me to becoming a yoga therapist. And then once I graduated from my program at Mount Royal University, I, was going through perimenopause, and it just seemed like, I can't be the only person who is desperate to talk about it, but doesn't have anybody to talk to because I didn't have anybody to talk to. My mom's long gone. I didn't have friends. I was one of the older ones of my friend group. And that's how it is. So I started a group, and the it just kind of exploded. So I think as of today we're like 12,200 and something or other of actual people. Like, we painstakingly look at every applicant to make sure that they're a person and not a bot or a fake profile or a spammer or going to scam the populace. And I think I have 7 volunteers right now who are helping me to monitor what's in the group and making sure that it stays a supportive culture. And from there, it was like, well, I was already treating my own perimenopause, and I started designing classes and courses and workshops to help women who are going through this. And in addition to the free group, so this is how we were talking. I was just talking to my husband about it yesterday. Being in the free group is like learning from the playground. You're in school, but you're learning from your peers. So
Right.
some of the information is great. Some of it is really, really accurate, bang on, supportive, loving, no problem. Some of it is not so accurate, maybe not so supportive, and not necessarily coming from a loving place. And then what I've set up, I'm going to put it in the chat there, is this new school of perimenopause. So you can join into this membership through a subscription and get like education from me and other experts. I bring in other experts. I put on a yearly, annual event in the fall, and I try to bring in a variety of different people because there is no one size fits all solution. You really have to go based on what you want. So, like one of the ladies I know, she wants all the medical. She wants the prescriptions, she wants the surgery, she wants to talk to doctors, she wants specialists. That's it. She doesn't care about supplements. She's not interested in diet. She's not interested in lifestyle. She doesn't want to do yoga, and that's fine. So I'm helping her to do that. But then I have other ladies that are on the other side of things where either they can't do any prescriptions or they really just don't want to. And so they're focusing on lifestyle, supplements, working out, yoga, being active, and maybe picking and choosing some prescriptions along the way. So it's much more like a self-serve buffet. So if you want to hear from the doctors, go to the videos made by doctors. If you want to hear about medical studies, go look at the medical studies. If you want to hear about yoga, go look at the yoga classes. So is there really something for everybody in there?
That's beautiful. Well, I'll be sure they can't see the chat, but we'll be sure to put it above this interview and down in the comments. And
Nice.
I want to take you back. We talked about something earlier when you mentioned
Hmm.
about being a yoga therapist, that a lot of people, and my ignorance as well, do not know the difference between a yoga instructor and a yoga therapist. Can you spell that
Yeah.
out for us?
Yeah, you can just think of it like general practitioners or specialists. So a yoga teacher knows about movement, they know about muscles, they know about bones, and they know about how to teach a general class that's probably good for most people in most conditions. And they may have further training to know things to avoid if there's certain particular things that come up. But in a class setting, they can't really, like, here's one example. I was doing a class and I could see one of the participants, her hip wasn't laying on the floor. She had an imbalance in her hips. So she was trying to do the posture, but she was like, I could tell she was uncomfortable. Now, in a class setting where you're taking care of like 30 or 40 people, you can't just go over and put a cushion under her hip. But as a yoga therapist, I could. So after the class, I went and I said, when you're in this posture, try and see how this feels. Does that feel better? And she was like, oh my God, it's like magic. And it's just like 2 inches of support, right? Um, so that's the big difference. And especially with perimenopause, like right now, I'm working with a client who was told she's not in perimenopause by her doctor. But everything she's told me shows that she is in perimenopause. And so she's found now a new clinic to go to with a specialist who's specializing in menopause care and believing that she is in perimenopause and helping to treat her. But if she hadn't had that support from the group and from me personally saying, yeah, like this is probably at least contributing to the condition. And there might be something else because that does happen where through the process of treating the perimenopause, something isn't responding. So it's coming from something else. And then they'll get another diagnosis. So that's another thing that I can do as a yoga therapist. I can work with you without a diagnosis, but I can also help you to incorporate any diagnosis that you get along the way. How are you going to make adjustments for that instead of letting it get you down and making your life even harder? A diagnosis should just be like a relief. Now you know what's called, you know what it is. What can we do to help you to make that better? So it's really like geared towards you personally. It's not a one size fits all solution. Um, and that makes all the difference, right? Because like I had one client, one of my first clients, she was having really bad vaginal pain, like she couldn't wear pants. That's how bad it got when she contacted me. And so we worked together and found her a nurse practitioner who prescribed a vaginal estrogen cream, and she got feeling better. So as we're doing the coaching, she's starting to feel better and better and better. And then I asked her about the sexual relationship, and she said it's okay. And I was like, I can, we can do better than okay, like if you want, but it's up to you, right? Is that what you want? And she was like, no, I'm good with okay. So that's it. That's what she wants. It's not about what I want. I think that's one of the ways that I work things differently than a lot of people in general, where they have an agenda of what they want for you, right? We want you to
Right.
lose
Yeah.
20 pounds. That's not my agenda. I want you to feel healthy and strong and be well. And maybe some weight will change while we're working on that. But also maybe not. Like for me, my weight didn't change when I started working out and doing weight training. I just got stronger. So did I fail? No, I didn't fail. I got stronger. I'm healthier. I'm stronger. I have more stamina because I'm not attached
Exactly.
to like a number is not going to define whether it's working or not for me. My stamina, my general overall well-being, and how capable I am is what is the definer of, how well it's working, right? So I
Right.
help women
That's
with
what
all
you
kinds of
measure
stuff
to.
like that.
You
Yeah.
know, and
Yeah.
that's an important point. Everybody's measurement of what well-being for them is different. And something else too we were touching on earlier, and is that a lot of doctors, in America, because I know you're in Canada, they only get 15 minutes with their patients.
Us too.
They yeah, and so
Yeah.
they don't have time to really dive into it. So a lot of them it come across as very dismissive just because their hands are tied, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Or,
Mm-hmm.
the story I was telling you where I was, written off, but I wouldn't take that as an answer. I'm like, no, you're going to have to do better than this, you know?
Yeah.
and calling my doctor to task. But not everybody has that personality or that wherewithal to do that because we're taught to, or led to believe that we can believe the guy or the woman in the white coat. Um, but
Or
like you
even
said,
don't you think like because you were in a weakened condition. You're not feeling well. You've been tired, like dragging yourself through your day. How are you supposed to get into the ring and fight in that condition?
and yes, and I highly support people who are ill to have a health advocate, somebody who's healthy that can speak on their behalf because I don't want to go into it now, but I've felt like I was taken advantage of because it was more money for the hospital than for my own personal well-being. And they literally said to me, "Oh, this is hospital policy." Well, later to come find out there's no such thing, you know,
Ugh,
that but
so frustrating.
it is, but I was on so much pain meds. I couldn't make a decision or think for myself for 6 weeks, I think it was, before I finally had my surgery. So yeah, having an advocate like yourself to speak on their behalf or to guide them
Mm-hmm.
is, that didn't used to exist, and it does now. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one of the
use
things
it.
I'll do is just appointment prep. So I'll have someone book an appointment with me. They have a specialist or a doctor's appointment coming up. They want a particular thing dealt with, and I coach them through how to approach the doctor to hopefully get the result that you want. And sometimes it's a massaging, and it takes a little while. Depending on the doctor, right? And also the approach, because one of the things I remind people of is like your doctor became a doctor because probably they're very smart, they're good with math, they're good with science, and they care about people. Probably, right? You can kind of take that for granted. So I've had a couple of times, really quick, one hint that works a lot is reminding the doctor. So I will ask if I start to feel like things are going a little bit sideways. What was it that got you interested in becoming a doctor? And then they start talking about, how their auntie really was excited about how great they were with science. And she had a chronic illness and they got really interested in that. And then as they were exploring in university, it became really clear that they had an aptitude for working with people and science. And then now they've remembered themselves why they became a doctor. And when I ask them again for what it is I'm wanting, they're a little bit more inclined
That's
to listen
brilliant.
to what I'm saying. Yeah. And it's not hard to do that. It takes a moment to just say, so why did you become a gynecologist?
Well, and like you said, if you're the person going to the, I just call them the white coats for now.
Hmm.
um, you don't even know what to ask. And what's so brilliant about your group, your organization, and what it is you do is, you help them come up with the questions that they need to ask or what they need to know, because they're at a loss. That's why they're going.
Yeah. And if you come in and you say, I'm tired and I don't really feel like myself and I'm crying more often, that doesn't necessarily point to an illness, right?
Right.
Yeah. But if
Especially
you
if you're
have
talking
the
to a
things
male.
behind it, yeah, if I have a comprehensive symptoms list and it's got almost everything that are the most pressing concerns that we come up with. And I've had this happen where the woman has gone in and said, I have a headache every day. And the doctor's been very dismissive about that, because it's not necessarily a big problem to have headaches. A lot of people have frequent headaches. But then she takes the list in and it says, always. And then in the notes, it says, I wake up with a headache every day. They see that, and all of a sudden they're like, whoa, wait a second, that's not right. Okay, so here's what I want you to do. You're going to talk to the doctor. You're going to go to this specialist. You're going to have this scan because we want to like take a look at your medications. Now we're looking for what could potentially be causing that, and ruling out things, right? Like when was the last time you saw the dentist? Have you talked to the dentist because it could be TMJ?
Oh,
Those
interesting.
kind of
Yeah.
things, right? But you need to know. And it's not normal to just leave a woman. I get a little bit furious about it, like leaving them sick all the time when we're taking care of kids and we're taking care of jobs and we're taking care of partners and we're trying to take care of our parents a lot of the time. It's a lot to manage and balance and it's overwhelming. And so now you're going to leave her be kind of sick all the time. Like, that's just cruel. And I think, dangerous for society in general if we're driving without sleep.
Well, and then just, feeling like a failure because you can't keep up with it all, you know,
Yeah,
and it's not your fault,
it's
you know.
not at all your fault. No, that's one of the reasons why the group is the CPMS is a support group because more and more, you know, women will come in and be like, all of these things, here's the litany of things that are happening. And sure enough, almost immediately someone else will be like, I've had that, or I'm going through that right now, or I tried this and this really helped me. And now instead of being like in this vacuum of hello, there's other people saying, you know, at least you're not alone in it. And there's other people that have actually been able to turn their situation around because the group has been running now for 4 years.
Oh, beautiful. That, yeah, I can't even imagine the wealth of information that you've collected over 4 years, not to mention there's a more better understanding than even 20 years ago
Oh yeah,
of the changes
completely.
that women go through.
Yeah, and luckily there's been like a handful of very active, very vocal female doctors, mostly from America, who are just talking about it all the time. They're really vocal and interested in doing studies and writing books and talking to each other and doing podcasts and so there's more information coming down the pipes. There's still a lot of misinformation as well, so I dispel that, but I always say, if it's really important to like the bioidentical hormones, there's some debate about that because in the meantime, the pharmaceuticals have caught up. So not
Yeah,
everything is bioidentical, but there are options that are pharmaceuticals that are probably covered by your drug plan. But you need to know which is which if that's really important to you that you're avoiding synthetics. And for some people it is, and for some people it isn't. It's not my job to say. I personally am taking advantage of a synthetic hormone and also the micronized progesterone, and it's brilliant. It's been amazing for me. So please don't take away my synthetic hormone. I need it.
well,
If you don't want it, I'm fine with that. No one else has to do any. And I see that a lot in the group, right? What really drives me nuts is women telling other women what to do. We don't do that. I don't tell people what to do. I make suggestions. I talk about what worked for me, you know.
exactly. This is fabulous. And I can't even think of the words to say, but you have such an amazing organization, and with that many women, it's a rite of passage. It's not like you're going to get around it. The only way to get past it is to go through it,
Yeah.
and to feel as best as you can. I remember when I was going through it. I happened to be fortunate enough to have a second generation homeopathic doctor who was also an MD. And
Nice.
she was saying, and it's our industrial age. She says, we don't know this, but PMS is not a natural thing. It should not be happening, but it's our environment, it's our culture, it's our diet that it exists. Okay, so we can't really do anything about that. It does exist now. How can we get through it, without suffering and being able to maintain all our responsibilities? And I was very blessed
And
when there
have a
wasn't
good
that.
time. Like, let's also
Right.
have a good time.
I know, right? Exactly. And mine was just, to be truthful, it was just dumb luck. I you
Yeah.
know I had an ex-husband and his significant other that went on the Atkins diet, and I saw that they both equally lost 30 pounds. And I was like, well, let me give it a try. And so the first 2 weeks of it is you get off everything white, which is rice and dairy
Yep.
and
Yep.
uh, flour and sugar and, all those things. And in the first 2 weeks, it was like 80% of my symptoms just disappeared. Now, I
Yeah.
didn't know which things, but then when I slowly added them back one at a time, I was like, Ooh, milk chocolate triggers a hot flash. Oh, but dark chocolate doesn't. Cool, you know? And so, but I was being like a scientist. I was willing
Exactly.
to be experimental, and I
Yeah.
was willing to be patient
Yeah.
about it. So,
Yeah.
like I said, for me, it was just luck that I just kind of, you know, stumbled into it, but it's so much more complicated today. And, it is. So, how do you work with people?
Well, usually I do a free 15-minute call and they just unload, right? Because we need to talk about this stuff. And, I have people say like, I we've only been talking for 5 minutes and I'm already telling you about my sex life or, my period or whatever it is. And it's like I've heard this now. I've done over 100 calls for sure. I actually haven't counted them out, but I've been doing it for almost 2 years. And I've helped a lot of people just in that 15 minutes, right? Just having someone, and I usually try to give them at least one thing that they could potentially look at trying or, and then they book in with me and we do a series of sessions. So I follow them every 3 weeks. Usually they end up working with a doctor, a naturopath, a nurse practitioner, a prescribing pharmacist, um, and me. But the difference is like, for example, the naturopath will go through everything, do the testing, get a prescription for them, and then see them in 3 months. That's too long, right? I see them in 3 weeks and then say there is a problem, right? Something like for me, I have estrogen dominance. So if a standardized treatment would be to add estrogen and progesterone, I would have felt better in some ways and worse in others. So they need someone like me looking at it and being like, okay, well, what's going on here? Like for one of my clients, her doctor really just didn't want to prescribe at all anything that was very helpful for her. Um, so we went about it through a prescribing pharmacist. And while we were going through that process, her doctor recommended a supplement to her. Here, try this. And so she did purchase it, but then she sent me a picture of the ingredient list. And she was like, I'm not sure if I should take this. I think this would make my estrogen even stronger, and I have too much already. So I looked through it and was like, yeah, don't take that. Same thing. It would have made you better in some ways, worse in others. So let's avoid that for now. And I catch stuff like that all the time where I'm like, go back and ask for this because they gave you something that's similar. It's close, but it's not quite what's going to help you with exactly what's going on. Like Vagifem is a perfect example. It's an insert. It goes up high into the vagina and it melts and it creates more moisture. And it's a great product. But let's just say you're really, really, really dry and you've left it for a really long time. And now you're trying to use the insert. The insert itself might not melt
Oh,
because
interesting.
it needs that moisture in the first place a little bit anyway. And so then it's not really being effective and it doesn't treat the external area at all. So you might have like kind of feels like a rash. It's kind of like rug burn, and
Oh no.
but a cream, it can be used topically and will make you feel better like almost right away. So go back and ask for the cream. So that's where having someone like me, because I have no shame. That's what my husband said. Do you have no shame? And I said, I'm not ashamed about love and I'm not ashamed about sexuality. You know,
That's beautiful. Yeah,
yeah, my mom
and
was like
that's
that. Yeah.
well, and it does, and taking the stigma away from it. And it's not if you have a male doctor, you're not necessarily going to be comfortable sharing, and they're not really into the storytelling part where you're leaving all these hints of what's going on. It's like, just give me the facts, ma'am, just the facts. It's like, I
Yeah.
don't know what the facts are.
Yes. So you need to know, like, I want this, this, and this. Like, you walk in with like a military list of what it is you're looking for and what could potentially be going on, and it makes a huge difference. So I've helped. There's 12,000 people more than in my group right now. Arguably, I've helped most of them at least more than not at all.
Right,
So that's something, and I have beautiful volunteers who are well-educated people and they want to help as well. But they're all over the spectrum, right? I have one that's against hormones. She does not want to use them at all, but she would never tell another woman what to do. I have another one who can't use them because she's post-op from a double mastectomy with hormone sensitive breast cancer. She can't have any hormones, but she's not going to tell anybody else what to do. You know what I mean? I have another one who's loving the hormones, but she wants the bioidenticals. She's not going to tell anybody else what to do. So we have a really good balance of like everybody is inclusive, right? Like we're going to welcome you into the group regardless of, your political leanings or, how you feel about having cats in your house or whatever the stupid things that people will argue about. And we just talk about, I've had a few people say, wow, you're really into hormones. It's like, I'm not into hormones. I'm into stuff that helps women. So if that's what they need, I want to help them to get that. If they don't need it, then they don't need it. That's a completely different situation, right?
Right.
Um, yeah, it's a beautiful thing. I feel incredibly blessed, and I couldn't do it without my volunteers. So shout out to the ladies that are helping me to keep this group running, like because it's just too much for one person.
Oh, yes, definitely. And we'll be sure to list their names just to give them an extra special thanks when we're
Yeah,
done.
yeah,
So
they're great.
before we leave today, is there any parting words of wisdom that you would like to share? Not that you haven't given us a ton already.
Oh yeah, you know what? I mean, honestly, I tell women this all the time. It's not just a matter of asking for help, right? Because you can be at that street corner or in that clinic or talking to your family doctor or whatever it is and asking for help and getting no help. And then the problem is we feel like, oh, well, no one wants to help me or I'm not getting any help, so I'll just deal with it by myself. No, you just talk to the grocery clerk, talk to the nurse at your family doctor's office, talk to the massage therapist that you see, talk to your dental hygienist. Just keep telling people about what's going on for you because someone will say, I have had this happen where I've been talking to women about it because I talk to women all the time. I just talked to a receptionist this morning and mentioned, the perimenopause. That I'm looking for a new osteopath. Do they know anything about hormones? Not that osteopath treats hormones, but I want someone who knows what potentially is going on for me. And so she and I started talking about perimenopause and, supporting each other that we're both going through that journey. It makes a huge difference because eventually someone will say, go join this group, go talk to Jessica, or I've seen this doctor, or this clinic is great, or there's this new, you know what I mean? Like, don't stop talking about it just because the people you first talked to aren't receptive. If I had done that, the group wouldn't exist. I would have just gone, my friends don't want to talk about it, so I'll just shut up. But I'm not good at shutting up.
Thank goodness for us. Well, you absolutely keep talking. And this has been such an honor to have you here, Jessica. And like I said earlier, we're going to be sure to put different ways to get a hold of Jessica personally, also how to join her group and whatever else gifts that she has for us. So thank you so much for being with us today.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's been a lovely chat.